Greetings, it's the New York Thrifter here, and it is Wednesday. I'm going to run you through my day as a reseller. So I did not go shopping today. Instead, you might say that I shopped my own stash because I was looking for a very particular brand, and it is my favorite brand to resell. And this is a question that gets bandied about a lot, but I absolutely know the answer to it. And before I reveal, do you have any guesses? It is Johnny Was. Let me show you a tag. Johnny Was. And the reason that I love this brand so much is number one, they're absolutely impeccable pieces. They are definitely works of art. And number two, they hold their resale value probably better than almost any brand that I sell. So brand new pieces like I'm showing you here, these rayon boho embroidered shirts sell new for around $180 to $250, just depending on the design and what you're looking for. And for these, I'm going to list them very high. I'm going to list them probably around $89 or $99, taking best offer. I've made mistakes in the past where I had beautiful pieces. I put a price on them of around $69. Somebody would offer me $60 and I would take it. But I have since learned that Johnny Was is one of those brands where you can price it high and you can expect to make quite a bit of money. This is my favorite piece out of all of them. It has the embroidery, but this is made out of a deep navy velvet. And let me show you the brand tag because this is a little bit different from the rest. This is JW Los Angeles. JWLA is the brand. Johnny Was has 6 different divisions. Johnny Was, JWLA, 3J Workshop, Baya, Pete and Greta, and For Love and Liberty. And so if you ever come across any of those brands, you want to pick it up. Johnny Was sells incredibly fast for me. The reason I was looking for these is I want to list these in my eBay store, and I want to kind of go through the timeline with you guys to let you know how fast they sold for and what they sold for. So if you find a piece, what you can be expecting. And so this is my plan. I am going to list these tomorrow, Thursday morning. I am going to prep them tonight, list them tomorrow. And after I list them, I'm going to be keeping track of how many views my pages get, how many watchers I get on each one, how fast they sell for, and any offers that I get, just to give you a full look at this brand. So follow along. I think probably either on Friday or Monday, I'll give everybody an update about my Johnny Was. But I just wanted to answer that question that I get a lot mainly in Facebook groups where they'll talk about what's your favorite brand, and I just wanted to share that with Johnny Was, and I'm going to hopefully prove to you why with some very fast high sales. So up next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the sales that I made yesterday and shipped out today, and then at the end of the video I'm going to go through 12 more designers, so you want to stay tuned for that. It's been a very popular series here on my channel, so we've got 12 more designers I'm featuring today. I had some great sales yesterday, and today I shipped 4 packages. The first was a pair of Rock Revival black skinny jeans. I sold for $29.99 plus $4.99 in shipping. A rose and olive plus size green and white top. I sold for $8.99 plus $2.99 in shipping. A pair of Current Elliott cropped boyfriend jeans I sold on best offer for $30 plus $4.99 in shipping. And finally, this Hey Hey Moto jacket. This was in gray with perforations on it. And Hey Hey is a brand by Anthropologie. I recently passed something kind of similar to this up in the thrift store for $10. And maybe I should have got it because I was able to sell this for $29.99 plus $4.99 in shipping, although it did sit for a little while. So the total for yesterday, I made $116.93, not including shipping and fees that I'm going to pay. But I broke $100, and that is a good day in my book. I am back with 12 different designers that I'm going to go through today. We've got some big names in here. First up, I'm going to start with an Austrian designer. This is Helmut Lang. And this designer launched his first collection in the 1980s. Very minimalist looks. And it does okay in resale value. You're probably looking at between $20 and $30 for a piece like this. This is just a plain off-white tunic. If you had a more structural piece, they would definitely go for more money. I'm probably going to be sending this into the ThredUp Luxe program, where I'm hoping to get about $20 for this piece. Now, this next designer, I'm going to completely butcher her name. I believe it is Johanna Barasaci, and she is a Romanian designer. These are a new with tag pair of pants, and they are a little bit simple. She does a lot of cocktail dresses, is kind of more what she's known for. She's also done work at Anthropologie, which is absolutely beautiful. So she was the creative director for Betsey Johnson for a while, and she decided to launch her own line at the end of the 90s. Unfortunately, in the last couple of years, her brand has really lost a lot of its value. It's now available at like TJ Maxx at deep discounts. If you wanted to sell a piece of her clothing, you're probably looking at between $20 and $25 on eBay. The next designer is incredibly controversial, and that is John Galliano. And let me show you, he's got a patch here on the back of these jeans. Now, Galliano used to be regarded as one of the best designers working. He is a British fashion designer. He launched his line in the 1980s. In the 90s, he worked for Givenchy and Dior, but he got fired from Dior because a few years ago, he made some really hateful racial remarks that he paid dearly for, both in fines as well as almost a complete loss of his reputation altogether. So these Galliano pants, I am going to sell. I plan on sending them into ThredUp, which will hopefully net me about $50. I probably wouldn't have purchased these at the time if I would have known about his reputation, but I didn't. But now you have all the information depending on what you want to do with it. D Squared is a kind of lesser known brand. It's an Italian brand that was started by identical twin brothers, and they were Canadian. They moved to Italy, launched their brand, and they're considered very, very luxurious clothing. They have got an amazing, amazing resale value. You could sell this on eBay for at least $50. ThredUp will give you between $80 and $100 for sending this in to their Luxe program. So that's what I'm planning on doing. And D Squared is really known for having an intimate relationship with music and musicians. The brothers really were launched quite heavily when Madonna had them design her wardrobe for her down tour in the 2000s. They've also worked with Christina Aguilera and Rihanna on different shows. And so I definitely suggest that you check out the label. And if you find a D Squared, it is absolutely worth picking up. Torn by Rani Kobo. Rani is a female. She was born in Tel Aviv, and she really does a lot of work with knitwear and animal prints. And so I have a few of her pieces here. This is the newer label. Here's another piece. This is another example of some knitwear that she did, a black dress. And then this is a piece that has the older label on it. So this is the older Torn by Rani Kobo. And this is an animal print dress. And as you can see, she really works a lot with a woman's curves. She seems to have quite a following. I've sold several of her pieces on eBay. And after I do, I usually get a message from the buyer saying, hey, do you have any more of her pieces in my size? And so there's a following there. It's worth the investment to get. I can sell a dress usually around $50. The sweater's probably going to go for closer to $35. And so I find them to be pretty fast flips. Next up is an Italian brand, Etro. And if you have an extra $2,000 lying around, they have the dress for you. A very, very exclusive, expensive brand, both men and women's clothing. They really are known for incredibly bright paisley prints. Here is an example of one of their prints that's just absolutely bold and in your face. These other two are not quite as indicative of the style. This is just a woman's button down, striped. And then this is just a rather plain black dress, although the tailoring is definitely exceptional on this. Now, even though Etro sells in the thousands of dollars, when you're doing resale on it, it's not quite as good. If you're looking at eBay, if you have a cotton piece like this, you're looking at maybe $50, maybe a little bit less depending on the condition. Now, a silk piece like this top, which is much more in their style, you could probably get around $100 for. And so I usually sell mine on eBay. You would be able to send these into the Real or ThredUp Luxe, but they just don't have as good of a return. Now for the dress, if this was in a super, super bright print, I'm looking at probably $120 or even $150. Because it is black, maybe closer to $100. Girolamo Etro started the company way back in the 60s and became pretty prestigious pretty quickly. He has since transferred over the day-to-day work to his 4 children. And it's interesting because even though it's a family business, he made each of his kids start as interns at his company and work their way up into running it. So Etro is definitely a brand that you want to look for. Next up is a brand that I think we're all going to recognize. That is Coach. And this was originally started in New York City, where handmade leather like wallets were being made in the 40s. And they got bigger. They brought new people in. They branched out. Now they make everything from jackets and outerwear to dresses, silk scarves, eyeglasses, shoes, you name it, and Coach does it. But what they're really best known for are their handbags. I have this one on hand today, just a large Coach handbag here. And Coach has really been going downhill for a while now. The reason for that is they're outsourcing more of their leather work to other countries, and so the quality just isn't there. They also opened up a lot of outlet stores, and so their brand has really lost a lot of its cachet because it's now no longer hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to get these items. You can go to an outlet and for $85 get a bag. So it really isn't as viewed as it once was. But you can definitely recognize the Coach from their signature C's, as you can see here, and then on the inside of their jacket. So if you do have any pieces or shoes or bags by this company, I would suggest you either sell it yourself on eBay or you can send it into ThredUp. Now, I know ThredUp is usually pretty inundated with it. They actually have a whole box that they'll ship to you for like old Coach bags. And so it's kind of a dime a dozen a bit. If you do go to eBay, you're probably looking at between maybe $30 and $100 for some used items. Obviously, scarves and smaller items would be a lot less. For this jacket, it's a lesser kind of known piece because they are known more for their handbags. And so $30 or $35 is really all I would get for this quilted jacket. For the purse that I just showed you, it's probably closer to $70. So next up, I have Alexander Wang, and this is T. Alexander Wang. So it is his diffusion brand, not as much money. Alexander was born in California. He's rather young. He does urban designs, a lot of black. Launched his line in 2007, and just 2 years later started the T. Alexander Wang line, which is much more affordable. For selling this, I'm probably going to send it into the Real and make about maybe $16 on it. They'll price it at $50. To show you the breakdown of the Real and their pricing structure, if you want to see my first couple videos of the series, I do go through that. I'll link them below. And so this is just a long maxi dress. It's rather plain. Like I said, I'm not going to really bother with putting it on eBay myself. The price would probably be between $15 and $20. So I'm just going to send that in. We have our first gown of the series. This is a Carmen Marc Valvo gown. And as you can see, it's got some great lace and ruffles there at the bottom. Beautiful pleating. It would be absolutely wonderful for any formal occasion. Let me show you. Here we go. Carmen Marc Valvo. And he is an American designer. He started in the business, just in fashion, but he didn't start designing until later on. In the very end of the 80s, he gathered up a few $1,000s, created his first line, and amazingly enough, it got the attention of buyers from some of the very large department stores. So we're talking Saks Fifth Avenue, Neiman Marcus, and they started buying up his designs, and they haven't stopped since. Carmen Marc Valvo is doing couture lines right now, and so he has very, very expensive dresses that are couture. This is definitely kind of from one of his lower ends, and I'm going to be sending this in a thread up, hopefully making about $70. If I was to sell it myself on eBay, it would probably make about that much money as well. But with gowns, I find it's a little bit more difficult for resale because you have to find the exact right buyer in the exact right time for what they're looking for. It can be rather difficult. I like sending my gowns out just because I don't want them, sitting in my inventory, even though I've been holding on to this one for quite a while. I am going to give that to ThredUp Luxe. Now, if you're a reseller, Cezanne is going to be the favorite brand of this whole bunch. And the reason for that is the French woman who started this brand very recently in 2013, her name is Morgan Silazore. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. And she was a reseller that sold on eBay. She would rework her pieces slightly, resell them, and after a while, she got such a following that she was able to raise the money to actually start her own vintage-inspired line. So here is one of her dresses. It's absolutely gorgeous with those small little buttons, and you can definitely see the vintage inspiration in her pieces. And ThredUp and The Real don't have any sales information on her, probably because she is so new. They might not have sold her before. But if you go on eBay, she has quite the following. I'm expecting to list this piece at around $60 and hopefully selling it for somewhere around there. But I loved her story. I loved the fact that somebody that does what we do was able to succeed in such a way. So congratulations to Morgan on that. Jean-Paul Gaultier is probably the most recognized designer that I'm talking about today. He is French. He has had no formal training in fashion. Instead, when he was a teenager, he would sketch different outfits and style them, send them into different stylists around France. And he got the attention of Pierre Cardin, who hired him in the 70s. Even though he doesn't have training, he's absolutely an amazing craftsman. And so he's been working in the fashion industry ever since then. He did a stint at Hermes in the early 2000s where he was the creative director. But he now has kind of closed his lines and instead is focusing a lot on couture. One of the reasons why he was able to garner so much attention is he was kind of seen as a bit of a wild child where he would do things on the runway that others wouldn't. And that included everything from his designs being very avant-garde to the actual models that he would pick. He was putting people down the runway that nobody else would, whether that be gender bending or that be different sizes, or just, kind of odd looks that he would put them in. And so Gaultier is definitely a godfather of the fashion industry. This jacket itself is not a great representation of what he did because a lot of his pieces were more avant-garde, while this is a little bit more tame for him. It does have some great details though, like a little bit of leather right behind the collar on there. So you can kind of see a little bit of his punk aesthetic coming out there. But for this piece, I am going to sell it myself on eBay. I'm probably going to price it really high. I'm probably going to price it around $200. And you're going to see if you look at comps for some of his pieces, they're not as high as that. And there's kind of a saying in the reseller world, nobody can pay you what you're not asking for. And so I'm going to ask for a lot and I'm going to expect a lot and we'll see how it goes. I can always drop the price later on, but once it's sold, it's finalized. So I absolutely love Gaultier. I suggest you Google some of his designs because you would be just absolutely amazed by the art that he's put down the runway. And for the last designer of the day, we have Byron Lars. And he is an American designer. He launched in the early 90s, and Women's Wear Daily called him the Rookie of the Year. He got a lot of attention. He sold lines to Bergdorf, Saks, Neiman Marcus. He's also done a lot of work with Anthropologie. If you do find a Byron Lars, especially for Anthropologie, grab it. They're worth a lot of money, well over $100 in the resale market. And you can tell it's from Anthropologie because his Byron Lars collection is a little bit more on the tame side. So you can see this one I was showing you. It's got some interesting pleating and such, but it is just a plain jersey dress. Whereas when he designs for Anthropologie, you get patchwork, craziness, satin, silk. It's much more luxe than this is. Now this piece will probably fetch about $50 on eBay, which is where I'm going to sell it. I want to thank everyone for sticking with this designer series, and I'm going to be back tomorrow where I don't know, maybe I'll go thrifting, maybe I'll shop my own stash again. I'll definitely be doing some listing, and I will have a dozen more designers for you. Have a great night.